Hey everyone, Jay Whitner here with Space Headlines. We do a quick recap each week of what's going on in space, and today we're going to be talking about the fourth week of May 2019. Our first story has to do with the Artemis mission. This is the new designation for NASA's return to the moon with people by 2024. The news is that the White House had requested supplementary funding for the upcoming fiscal year of $1.6 billion to help make Artemis happen. And the primary uses of this would be to accelerate the Space Launch System and the Orion capsule. The news that's just happened is the House Appropriations Committee has reviewed the NASA budget and has approved the NASA budget. However, they did not address this new request, really, from the White House for supplemental funding for Artemis. While it is possible that they may, embrace this and support it in the future and vote for it, as yet they've not done so, and the clock is ticking. SpaceX had a big success again. The company launched 60 Starlink satellites in a single launch. If you've not been following this story, this is satellite-based internet. It is a big part of SpaceX's future plans and their fundraising plan. At any rate, the 60 satellites were launched. Everything seemed to go smoothly. The launch used a Falcon 9 rocket that took off from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Shortly after the launch, the first stage safely landed on a drone ship out at sea in the Atlantic. Eventually, Starlink will comprise of over 1,000 satellites. It takes about 1,000 to get it economically viable, but the plan involves many thousands of satellites. And each satellite right now, as we speak, is using its internal electric propulsion system to raise themselves from the current orbit where they were dropped off by the Falcon 9 rocket to their final operational orbits. So far, so good, in a very, very complex mission executed by SpaceX. More SpaceX news. The filings were released that they did with the SEC about fundraising so far this year. And these filings indicate that SpaceX has raised over $1 billion of fresh capital so far this year. And presumably the main uses of this capital are going to be continued development and build out of the Starlink internet satellite service that we were talking about a moment ago, and development of the new Starship and Super Heavy needed for SpaceX's heavy lift ambitions. A little bit more detail about the Starlink satellite system. Almost half of the people on planet Earth do not have access to the internet. And this system is designed to provide that internet access basically to everybody on Earth. Anybody can access the system and be able to use the internet. So these thousands of satellites will be located in lower Earth orbits than are traditionally used. So like the geosynchronous satellites are really up high. These will be much lower orbits. The main benefit of that is low latency, which is the amount of time for like the signal to get back and forth and for the internet to respond to you. So for some uses, this is very, very important. The users of this new satellite network would only need a very small, affordable piece of hardware to access the network. A small thing that runs about $200 is the estimate. And the exciting news for space folk about our future in space and future Starship is they're projecting profits could be $30 billion a year from Starlink. And these funds can be used to develop the Starship and move forward with SpaceX's other plans. As everybody knows at this point, the White House and NASA have embraced this goal of returning people to the moon by 2024. And it was recently named Artemis is the name of the Return to the Moon campaign. The most challenging piece, perhaps, of the whole puzzle is that right now we don't have a lunar lander. We've been developing the Space Launch System for many years, and we have other rockets as well that might be used. We have the Orion capsule in development, and we have other capsules like the Dragon that already exist that could be used. But there isn't any lunar lander. So this is a very important issue. Recently, Jeff Bezos made some announcements from the Blue Origin company about their lunar lander, which is called Blue Moon. They've been developing one for 3 years, so they maybe have the inside track in fulfilling this need. But NASA has chosen 11 different companies that they're going to fund to put their plans together quickly, so that we'll have a choice of how we might handle the lunar landing problem. The most developed one, as I mentioned, the Blue Moon lander, has 2 versions. The more robust, larger one is capable of landing 6.5 tons on the lunar surface. Another piece of the Artemis concept is the use of the gateway. This is sort of a mini station operating out near the moon, and the full build out will take a while, but they're looking at doing a rapid build out of the key pieces needed to support the Artemis project. The news is Japan wants to really be involved in this. They want to work with us to help develop the gateway. And they've identified a couple of different pieces of the gateway that they're especially interested in. One, they'd like to work on the International Habitation Module. They'd also like to work on the Logistics Resupply Module. So this is good news to get this commitment early in the process, because the accelerated time schedule of the more rapid lunar return makes international cooperation a little more challenging, because it takes time to put these arrangements together. Having talked about the need for a big lunar lander to support the human lunar return, there's also a need for little landers to put forth some science payloads on the lunar surface in preparation for all the big stuff. So NASA has recently picked out 3 firms that they are contracting with to take small scientific payloads and land them on the moon. The 3 companies are Astrobotic, Intuitive Machines, and Orbit Beyond. Collectively, these companies are going to be gearing up to take up to 23 payloads to the lunar surface, and this should happen pretty rapidly. The first mission should fly next year, so we'll get some data on the moon, on the surface of the moon, before we have to commit to the final details of how we're going to do the Artemis human lunar return. That's it for Space Headlines for the last week of May. Hope you enjoyed our show. Check back with us in a week or so. And we'll be talking about the first week of June. We'll see you then.